Claude Code has a memory problem. Every time you start a new session, it forgets everything. The project you were building, the decisions you made, the dead ends you already hit, gone. Most developers just accept that and re-explain context every single time. One developer didn't accept it. And the fix is a single Markdown file. No framework. No vector database. No special plugin. Just a .md file sitting in your project repo, structured in a specific way, and it fundamentally changes how Claude Code reasons and behaves. This is what's called a cognitive architecture. And the wild part is that it weighs less than a README. So what does this thing actually do? The file is divided into sections. Things like current task, working memory, reasoning steps, known constraints, and open questions. When Claude Code reads this file at the start of a session, it doesn't just get context, it gets a thinking structure. It knows where it left off, what it already tried, and what assumptions it's operating under. The demo on the project site shows Claude being given a complex refactoring task across multiple files. Without the cognitive file, it starts from scratch, asks redundant questions, and occasionally contradicts earlier decisions. With the file in place, it picks up mid-thought. It references its own previous reasoning. It avoids paths it already marked as dead ends. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between an assistant that forgets and one that thinks continuously. What surprised me most was how little Claude needed to be taught. The structure in the Markdown file isn't complex. It's closer to how a human engineer would leave notes for themselves after a long day. But Claude reads it like a blueprint. It fills in the sections as it works. It updates its own working memory. The file becomes a live document, a scratchpad that also acts as a brain. Now here's the honest part. What this does not do. It doesn't give Claude actual persistent memory between sessions on its own. You have to commit the file, or at least save it, and point Claude to it at the start of the next session. If you forget that step, you're back to square one. The system depends entirely on you maintaining the workflow discipline to load that file every time. It also doesn't solve hallucination. Claude can write things into its working memory section that are wrong. And then it will reason on top of those wrong things confidently. The file gives structure to Claude's thinking, but it doesn't verify that the thinking is correct. A bad assumption that gets written into the cognitive file will persist and compound. And the format is fragile. If Claude outputs the file in a slightly different structure, maybe it reorganizes a section or renames a heading, the whole thing can quietly break. There's no schema validation. There's no error if the file drifts. You might not notice until 3 sessions later when Claude seems confused and you realize its memory file has been malformed for days. So it works, but it requires you to be a careful user. Where does this go from here? The realistic near-future version of this is a thin wrapper, a script or a VS Code extension that automatically loads the cognitive file at session start, validates its structure, and appends the session output before closing. That removes the human discipline requirement and makes the whole thing robust. You could also imagine project-specific templates. A cognitive architecture file shaped for front-end work looks different than one shaped for data pipeline debugging. Teams could version control these templates the same way they version control code style configs. It becomes a shared mental model for how the AI agent approaches your specific codebase. And if models get longer context windows, which they will, the cognitive file could expand to hold not just current task state but a compressed history of every significant decision made in the project. Not a log, but a structured memory. That's actually closer to how experienced engineers think when they onboard onto a legacy codebase. They build a mental model first. The file externalizes that. So why does this even exist? Because the standard way of using AI coding assistants is stateless. Every session is day one. That works fine for isolated, simple tasks. But real software projects are long. They accumulate decisions, constraints, and context that no model can infer from the code alone. The developer behind this project recognized something: the bottleneck isn't Claude's intelligence. It's Claude's continuity. And continuity doesn't require a new model or a new API. It requires a structure. A plain text structure that any model can read, write, and reason over without special tooling. That's an elegant insight. And it's the kind of thing that sounds obvious only after someone shows you. If you're already using Claude Code seriously, try dropping a structured Markdown file into your next project and see how it changes the session quality. The project site has the exact format. It takes 10 minutes to set up and the difference is immediately noticeable. Next episode, we're looking at a tool that does something similar but for multi-agent pipelines where the memory problem gets dramatically worse because now multiple AI agents need to share state. That one gets interesting fast.